Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to a special Tuesday night episode of Above the Noise. I'm joined tonight by our friend Rebecca R.K. Be sure to subscribe to her, myself, on Facebook and YouTube as well. So I'm excited to have this conversation tonight. It's good to meet you, Rebecca, finally, face to face.
Likewise.
Yes, absolutely. We've been friends for, it's been years and years and years, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, we've known
So
each
I'm
other
excited
for
to
a long time.
through some. I think the Bernie days
Yeah.
is I want to say it's when it started, and so much has
Yeah, we were
changed.
squabbling over whether or not he was authentic or not.
Yes, yeah. And then I just kind of personally just kind of left politics. After that whole election cycle, I was kind of done with it all.
Yeah.
But listen, I'm excited to have you on the show tonight, and I'm so excited for this topic. So, guys, tonight we're talking about the power of we, the essence of intentional communities, and honestly, whether or not they work. Is it something we should consider as possibilities for the future? And what kind of issues are involved with that? And I'm hoping Rebecca is going to share some stories from her time in Nepal tonight as well. I'm very much looking forward to that. So let me ask you, Rebecca, do you want to start with some stuff about Nepal? Do you want to jump right into the intentional communities, or do you want to kind of just intermingle it as we go?
I would like to at least introduce the idea of what I'm doing right now, and I guess at least what my mission is right now, and then the importance of sovereignty and autonomy and what that really means, especially autonomy and especially self-governance. And I'm writing starting a Substack finally, but I've been writing a lot of things about autonomy and what that means on my spare time. So I've decided to create, in the future, a book called The Autonomy Papers, which is a spin-off of the Anti-Federalist Papers.
Nice.
But I'm going to, as the years or the months roll on, I should say, going to talk more and more about what was done, what they were fighting for. I would like to address, community living that happened in the early, late 1800s, early 1900s, as well as the Native Americans and how they navigated being quite well with conservation, things that we can take from that we completely just disregarded today. And also just standing in our power spiritually and mentally, emotionally. I think of a lot of the emotions and mental hang-ups and self-sabotaging limiting beliefs that we have personally in our lives are carrying over into the political sphere, or I should say matrix society spheres. And we're not a lot of times able to control our personal lives, so we go after utilizing the anger that we feel on the society, which is not a bad thing. But of course, if we can't get a footing and a clear-cut understanding of who we are and what we want, and understand our self-respect and self-love in the first place, what business do we have trying to fix the entire world,
Right, or elect our leaders.
Yeah, so
right. No, I absolutely agree.
Understanding, what is autonomy? What does it mean? What is natural law? Can we use these things? Where is everybody going? Where does everybody want to go? How do we want to live? Obviously, a lot of people want to live with nature, but they want to do it by themselves. Nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, I want to talk about what is the power of living together with others, working together with others. And the power of that is pretty significant. Yes, you can live by yourself. You can grow food. You can live off grid. It is extremely difficult. Most people that do live off grid by themselves will tell you it's not for the faint of heart. I mean, there's so much that goes into it. So if you want to talk about what you think about off grid living, quick, Casey, and by yourself as opposed to community living, you can go ahead and interject.
Well, listen, I can elaborate maybe a little bit on where you're at, but I'm in complete agreement with you on the isolation, really in general. I mean, I think as far as off-grid living, it's going to be extremely difficult. I have a buddy up here on this mountain actually that's kind of doing it, and he's about to bail on it, honestly, because it's just really too hard to pull it all off by himself. But that's again one of those things that if you do it in community, again, everything's easier the more sets of hands that you have. I can only imagine.
Right. I mean, I think that when you're with community, everybody has a skill set, everybody has an interest, and you don't have to do everything by yourself. I understand, like, a lot of people just want to be away from everybody. They want to be away from the corporate world. They want to be away from friends and family. They want to be with nature, and they want to be able to listen to their heart and their mind think. And that's definitely doable with a community as well. I think that there's this fear that we would be on top of each other. And I think with a very intelligent design, it wouldn't have to be that way. But the most powerful people, the most powerful families, whether it's in Scotland, whether it's Native Americans, whatever it is in every time in history, their community was important because they can't do it all by themselves, but it's for protection. It was for interdependence, talent, skills. It's for emotional support.
That's what I was going to say.
In this time, I think everybody can probably agree that the cost of living is extreme. It's just not doable, and it's getting worse and worse. And I think with community living, the financial aspect of this is amazing because it allows us to depend on each other instead of one income all by yourself, or even with another partner. Sometimes it's still not
it's
even
still not
awesome.
enough.
It's like difficult,
Yes.
So why would you want to look at it financially? Well, I would say the benefits allow you to have the abilities to lower your monthly costs. You're not paying in $900, $1,500 a month. Usually communities that are intentional communities, even in America right now, people will pay like $300 for that plot they're renting because somebody bought the entire land, and so they petition lands pieces off, and it's $300 or $400 or $500. But it's still better that way for everybody. It allows people to get away from the corporate world, the rat race. It brings that monthly low cost down. And I think it also helps people pay off bills. I mean, there's just so much that they can do.
In general. Well, even my situation here, it's me, my mother, and my daughter, and so I've got my place, mom's got her place, but we're tied into all these same utilities, so same electric, same water, same internet, same all that stuff. So those bills are just split, and it's just easier, I mean, honestly, all the way around. And I think you referenced like our ancestral cultures and small tribes and stuff. And honestly, I think that the system that we live under has worked very, very hard to dismantle the family unit, to push families apart, and really to kind of push us to these places of just wanting to be alone and not even deal with people. And the family unit in this country is just practically decimated for a variety of reasons. And I think that we're at a time in history now. I'll reference this the fourth turning, maybe it's a little bit ago, but that was suggested we're about halfway through this time of crisis that very much precipitates a situation to consider these things like intentional communities, going back to my family. And the more I've been researching this book and listening to the authors, our particular generation, Gen X, because of the time in history that we were born into, are considered the nomads, basically. And this just matter of fact, jaded generation that, oddly enough, are going to be the ones that repair it all.
Yeah, and it makes sense. And it's chaotic too, because it's like we never really lived in the time period of living
No, we're
off
Clinton
grid or with
era.
nature that much, and so like we kind of have to borrow from what we don't even know really that
Right.
well, because we've had macaroni and cheese and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
No, right.
You know, we
Well,
grew up with that. So,
yeah.
and then
No,
it's
a lot
kind
of
of
it's
like
good.
repairing, you know, like you said, it's
Mhm.
it's that, and it's really what I think we're doing is offering like ideas and solutions. We're kind of like seed planting, and unfortunately
Yes.
we may not be able to see the fruits of our ideas right
No,
now. We
I
have to
mean,
create ideas. I think we're the ideas people, and it's going to be a while before everybody in a very large collective way says enough is enough, because
no,
we have
agreed.
to learn to say no, and we're
Yeah,
really struggling with that really
right.
badly.
Well, because everybody's lying. Everybody's lying to themselves. You know, you'd referenced it before, and I referenced it a lot too. Like everything ultimately comes back to just authenticity and just honesty and being real with each other, which creates, you know, to tie it back to the intentional community. It's like, let's say we have a plot of land, because in theory, I have we have 90 acres up here on this mountain. And so let's imagine that we have a piece of land. So land is a non-issue. There's flowing water, plenty of resources, so rock, trees, wildlife, like all that. I mean, like you could live here. And it's interesting because you had referenced, you know, talking about people growing up in nature, and we ended up on this mountain. My family did, because my stepdad started purchasing property on this mountain for times like right now. Like that was the whole point. So when we moved up here, yeah, and I was kind of raised with this whole accustom your children to hardships kind of upbringing. Not, I don't mean that it's tough love. I mean that I had to go out and chop wood. You know what I mean? And we had to de-thaw water lines and shit like that. So, but authenticity, I think, when it comes to doing an intentional community, is one of the things that would make it very, very difficult. Because, like, how do you even begin? So let's imagine, again, let's say it's the two of us, we got this piece of property. How do we even begin, like, recruiting people to get into something like this? And like, I would imagine you'd want to have some kind of hardcore vetting process.
Yeah, you would have
especially
to have,
in today's world.
There is this intentional community book that's really popular. It's like number 1 or number 2 on Amazon, and I forget the author, but I think that author is really, really well versed in creating communities in America. And she says that it's really, and I know that a lot of people are really kind of uncomfortable with this idea, but she says it's really imperative to have a leader of the community.
Sure.
Because of, you know, the power squabbles that can happen.
Sure.
And it doesn't mean somebody needs to be overbearing and enforcing, but there definitely needs to be mediator or some leader there.
Sure.
But it definitely starts out that way. And it definitely starts out with people either pooling money together to buy land, or somebody pooling money together, or starting a 501c3, I believe.
That was going to be my next question about if a lot of these are operating as nonprofits.
They are many of them, and that's the part of the intent. Intentional community.
Sure.
And a lot of the intents are actually to, you know, based on values. You know, they're looking for the right type of people that are not going to, you know, that are going to go along with their values. And it could be that they're religious values. It could be Christians who like to grow organic food. It could be non-religious who like to grow food. It could be, you know, people who want to have their children raised by everybody. And that's, you know, there's different goals and different threads within every community too. So, you know.
Do you think, how much do you think space becomes an issue? I know you mentioned it a minute ago. And like, I think a lot of people, just to be clear, for anybody watching, when we're talking intentional communities, we're not talking about like a commune per se, you know, where you've got one house with like a bunch of people living in it. That's not really what we're talking about. We're talking about separate living areas, homes even. One that really caught my interest here in the States is up in Ithaca, and I cannot remember the names of the women that started it, but I remember they started it, I want to say in like 91. And the story is so crazy because there was this nuclear activist woman and a kindergarten teacher, these two women, and they raised $400,000 in 2 weeks before the internet. You know what I mean? To purchase this land, and now it's a gorgeous place. They have like 5 or 6 little neighborhoods, and they all have different names, but it's gorgeous, and it really works for them.
Yeah,
and there's
I don't
they have
see
a lot
why
of
we
people
couldn't
that
do
actually
that.
work.
I don't see why that we couldn't do that. I mean, with social media for the last 5 years, I'm sure you've seen yourself, like people are constantly talking about this idea, and wanting to do this, and they will then buy a house. You know, they will put themselves into morgue, death sentence, you know, all alone by themselves. Because I think people are petrified of each other.
Well, I was going to say that, and I think I wonder if how much is the fear of change and comforts. You know what I mean? Because I've kind of, well, you followed me long enough to half gave up on the notion of any kind of real like revolution just or change, just because I don't think people really want to give up their comforts. As tough as that is, I think it's going to take just, I don't know what, honestly, something drastic probably to, but I don't know. I don't know what that's going to be.
Well, I don't know.
There's several trajectories. Well, no, you know, and that's part of the reason I started this show, is because there's a lot of topics out there like this, and AI, like a lot of stuff that is just piled up with a lot of fear, like surrounded around it. And I feel like when we're trying to discuss these really important topics that are just in this fear context, it's really hard to get a grip on the possibilities, because it takes away people's hope and power that we can actually affect change, and we totally can. You know what I mean? But we got to remain in this kind of positive sphere, because I talk about fear all the time.
Well, I think it too, like once people, like let's say for example, do go to an intentional community, and it takes time to build, but I think that if you build it intellectually, you have lots of landscaping, you know, trees, and separating people so that they have their own, feel like they have their own space without seeing each other through the next window. But I think that when people take that step in that direction, they will get a sense of empowerment, which is what people really need right now, is that boost of feeling like independence. Like, I don't need to rely on corporations. Maybe don't need to rely on working as hard as I always have, or my parents always have. I can know what's on my food. I can be in charge of my food. That sense of empowerment is what they took from the people, every race, every culture. And they gave everybody stuff. They gave everybody this idea of dependence, and you can have this, come and buy it, you can have this, you don't have to work hard for it. And honestly, now we're finding out that working in an office and coming home and fixing your house is like, you don't have enough time in the day to take care of your house and go to work. That is the actual work. So now we're thinking, wow, it might have been hard in nature to constantly be, you know, developing your food and whatever else, taking care of the home, but it's much more likeness to our souls and a much more at ease than it is to be going to work every day. And now I have 4 hours to do the dishes, vacuum, clean up the kitchen and living room, mow the lawn and everything else. And it's just it's a burnout.
That's if you don't have kids.
Yeah.
Throw kids in the mix, and it's and yourself is just lost.
And I mean, I'll add right now, it's a really great time with Nepal. What made the communities there work is just this thing. It is very hot there in this time period. So what they often do is wake up in the morning early, like around 7, and they do 4 to 5 hours of garden work and chores, you know, making some fit dinner, walking their animals, And then because it's so hot, they take that time out to sleep or visit with their friends or neighbors. And so it's
Sure,
about
sure.
3 hours, 4 hours of that. And then at night, when it cools down, like 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night, they might do a couple extra things like walk their goats at night, down the road and
Sure.
whatever else. But it's very leisure. They
Yeah.
know each other very well. And yeah, there's gossip at times. That stuff happens. Sometimes people don't like that, but it's family. So when we go
Right.
and we have family for Christmas, or we have family Thanksgiving, which is like once or twice or 3 times a year, they have
Right.
that every day. They get
Right.
together
Yeah.
every day and sit with each other, cutting
Yeah.
potatoes, can I help you with this, helping with that? Like, it's
Yeah.
that every single day. And I think that helps people's mood. It helps people's ability to just feel like they can lean on each other is more than I'm in my house by myself. I'm in my house by myself. My connection is my social media.
Yeah. It
People are
becomes
isolating
very,
themselves so
yes,
much.
absolutely. Yeah. And then you can just tell yourself anything that you want in your head. There's nobody to, people and human connection is crucial. I mean, it's everything, honestly. And, yeah, I just honestly believe that we've been intentionally pulled apart as families in this country, for sure.
Yeah. Well, and the little children there too. I mean, they learn, even the boys, they learn to wash dishes. They learn to do the food too with the parents. So they already grow up. By the time they're 20 years old or 25, they get married to a woman. The woman knows how to do everything, and the woman, when she's menstruating and she can't go in the kitchen, she's got her
Right.
time. She gets to step aside. The man can take over and do those things.
Yeah.
So I
Would you
think
say it's
that
a, go ahead, go ahead.
So I think that I'm just saying, I think that we've partitioned things out in such a way in this society that we're not really working together, whether it's in the family or as a community or as friendships. It's
No.
creating a lot of isolation and frustration. And then we wait for government to hand us over laws that go against our grain of who we are. And that
Right.
just
No.
we cannot stand. We don't even know, like, they're constantly putting stuff in our food or making us feel afraid that they're going to put stuff in our food all of
Right.
the time.
Yeah.
The food is the most important thing to make us healthy, along with meditation, walking, exercise, and love.
Yeah.
And
Food and
so
thought.
I think we really need to put community and food and nature first.
Agreed.
One of the most, I think, profound aspects, I think, of living off the land and living with other people, and that codependency. It's not even always the people as much sometimes as your ability to take a step back and be with nature and being able to know thyself. That is
Right.
only going to happen in a frequency and energy of nature and quiet. And if you
Yes.
can't get to that place, you're not going to be able to heal. You're constantly going to be like frazzled. What's my next to do? What's my next step towards success? What's my next day to
Yeah.
make this money? Busy, like success. And I really don't think, some people are very motivated by this empowerment of success, and that's fine. But a lot of
Right.
people are coming to realize that it's not fulfilling. That
No. Right.
actually
I think a
quiet
lot of
time.
people are.
Yeah. We need that quiet time and we need that nature. There's nothing better than the smell of nature. There's such a therapeutic benefit in so many ways. And the busyness that is like inserted, that is necessary to make ends meet, is like I think, one of the perpetrators of disease. Like, it is causing so much stress to always be
Stress, number one
busy,
cause.
distraction from self, not being able to heal or hear oneself think.
Yeah. Lack of ease.
Mhm.
It's right in the word. Sure.
So,
Absolutely.
intentional communities, creating nature, working with nature, coexisting, I also think, like I said in the earlier parts, there's so much we can take from the Native Americans as far as conservation goes. I mean, permaculture
Hmm.
is just a new word
I,
for
yes,
what
I
they
was going to mention
always
it
knew.
earlier. So I'm
Yeah.
glad you brought it back around to permaculture.
Yeah, I think that they were very good with, um, noticing that, hey, we're in this area too much. We're going to move to another area. The deer are
Right.
here. There's better soil here for now. And hey, when we're here too much, we're going to kind of move a little bit elsewhere. I mean, they were a little bit, a lot of times in stationary in their lands that they roamed in, but they moved around as well. They knew and realized that, hey, if we cut too many trees and we dig in the soil too much all of the time, and we hunt
Right.
all the fish here, we hunt all the deer here, all in this one spot, we're not going to have very much
We're not gonna have
left. And in
anything.
fact, how is a reservation even supposed to thrive when you're constantly utilizing what is on that reservation, when the crust of the soul of those people is to be able to use the resources of the land and sort of move around to it. I don't
Right.
know that that would even be something that we could mentally or even compute or actualize,
At this point,
but
right.
it is something to think about. And I think that's what's great about permaculture is the designing techniques
Hmm.
allow for farmers to do the best they can with the soil without degrading it, and without utilizing trees to work with the soil and with what you're
Yep.
growing.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. Great stuff. Permaculture.
mhm.
I started researching it pretty heavy up here for a while, but and I implemented as much as I could. But the property here is it's very tiered. So I mean, it lends itself to a lot of possibilities because we got it just kind of dropped down, and that's why it's interesting and why I wanted to. I've been into the idea of intentional communities for quite some time because, like I said, when we ended up here, my family did. The property started getting bought up in pieces with the intention. Like I remember growing up in the house that was originally here that burned, and we had a closet downstairs that was packed full of coats, blankets, just like all this extra stuff with this belief that one day people were just going to have to they're going to have to bug out basically. And so that's kind of always been the intention of this property here for the last, I don't know, 40 years. And so, because I believe in the power of intention and manifestation and all of that, there's this part of me that can't help but believe that it's almost an inevitability now,
Mhm.
because you're talking a couple of generations of intent for this property here. And so it almost seems, yeah, just a matter of time.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think that that's a really good idea about fundraising, and creating a whatever you want to call that land, and fundraising for it. I mean, we have you, between me and you and others that we know, we have enough people that would,
mhm.
if they're not interested, they definitely know people that are interested.
Yeah. I think there's
And
a
I
lot
think
of
that
people that
area is
are.
good. Mountain is good. The only issue is if it was really rainy, obviously, and there was a mudslide issue, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, well, we had that happen one time actually. Rock slide. Yeah, well, and it's funny because this location back in the day when my stepdad was, because like I grew up in Florida, and so when we ended up here, he had started referencing this book by Sun Bear called Black Dawn Bright Day, which anybody, if you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend it. And somewhere on my Facebook page is an album with all these maps out of it, and so it's marked with all the different areas could expect during these upheavals and stuff. And this was honestly one of the safer areas.
oh,
Of course,
really?
we've got Oak Ridge is not far from us. So that, as far as things right around us, that would be the most kind of alarming, I guess, as far as any kind of, it's an ammunition's place. You know what I mean? There's probably some nuclear stuff over there, maybe, but
Well, I mean, Nepal is really mountainous. In fact, most of that country is mountainous, and a lot of communities are built on those mountains. And yeah, of course,
mhm.
they do have to be, I think, Well, I'm sure it doesn't happen often as we might imagine it does, but of course they have to be really mindful about how they build and
Sure.
what they're planting there, what kind of soil, what's going on there. But they've been doing this for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. It's not like it's new, and it's not like something that we need to fear. But on the other
Right.
end of it is what makes Nepal interesting is that it hasn't been fully taken over by the NWO in the way that a lot of other Western countries have,
Sure.
is because it
Corporate
is so
interests and
mountainous, and it's very difficult to navigate for that reason easily, to
right.
transform corporately. So
Sure.
the people there are very tribal still, they're very traditional, and they're building that way in villages where it's not easy to drive into that area. It's not easy to create corporate culture in society,
Right.
which makes the mountain living very different and very good, very ideal, actually.
Sure. Well, I was going to ask you, since you brought it back around to Nepal again, when you were talking about the way even the boys were raised, would you say that it's more of a matriarchal kind of society as opposed to our patriarchal society here in the States?
Explain your question a little more
Well,
deeply.
Okay, so I know that as far as even some native tribes, and I couldn't tell you the names because I'm not that versed in it, honestly, but matriarchal as far as the women are more the leaders. And when I say leaders, I don't mean necessarily in a governmental context. Like we're very much, like the patriarchy here is very male oriented, and males are taught to be like there's a complete, we're not raised with the feminine aspect of our humanity, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it. And so I'm wondering, and it sounds like in Nepal it's quite the opposite, because I don't know how many. I can only speak for myself. Like I was taught how to cook, but I was kind of like a latchkey kid. So it's kind of a thing where I kind of had to know how to feed me and my brother a little bit. It wasn't by any sense of these are, let's say we're getting into gender roles now. So.
It's not really that black and white, I guess. They know how to take care of home. They know how to take care of land. They know how to take care of animal, their children in the future. However, they definitely, the woman is considered the nurturing character, the feminine character. The man is not really so much about showcasing emotion or being super feminine. Of course, they can be emotional, but it is still very old world in that sense, that the man presents himself as the caretaker and the woman is the nurturer. But they work cohesively. It's not like, I just go and bring home money and you're supposed to do everything. Unfortunately, this country is, a lot of countries are like this right now, third world. So a lot of people, males, they have family, they end up leaving the country to work for years, and they're never with the wife and the children, because they bring that money home to help, because they're so poor there. It's a beautiful land, it's rich in resources, it's rich in culture and religion and values and music, but they're kind of split, unable to really do what we do here, which is stay at home working all the time. There's a little bit of brokenheartedness in that aspect, because
in Nepal.
So in some families, because they really, struggle financially to to better themselves. It's very difficult to climb there, to get higher. Not saying it doesn't happen, but it takes time. And a lot of people decide to go elsewhere to make money.
I was going to say, because I can't imagine there's many opportunity for.
Well, their government actually incentivizes them to do it. They have tons of programs to go to other countries.
Work elsewhere.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. It's like they don't want to spend the money to fix their own country, as far as like giving them jobs there. They
Yeah.
help them to leave the country and then come back.
That's that's interesting. It's almost like this. It's a similar situation here in Virginia because there's a lot of workers that come in now from other states because they took our minimum wage up to $12 an hour, but we're surrounded by 7.25 still. You know what I mean? Kentucky,
That's
Tennessee, they're
crazy.
all, so yeah, people are coming in from all those other states working at the Walmarts and everything. That's crazy. You drove an hour and a half to come work at this Walmart. But I mean, yes, it makes sense at that pay rated,
That's big money for them, I guess.
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But and financially, though, since we're talking finances, we'll tie this right back in to the intentional communities, or even, it's even sometimes I don't even think it's about intentional communities, because essentially living with family, even like what I've got going on here, I mean, we are basically creating an intentional community here, and family dynamics are rough sometimes because of the society we live in. And I mean, families are broken. And so even to pull this off requires healing generational traumas, honestly, which is probably what needs to happen in society anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things I found interesting about this fourth turning, and so I'm gonna reference some of this real quick. And so basically, for anybody watching, I'll go more in depth the next 2 episodes of Above the Noise. I'm going to kind of focus on this fourth turning. And so what this book is about is historical cycles. So basically, 80-year cycles, and then basically everything kind of starts over again. But it just kind of keeps building on itself. And so it talks about generations, like I referenced, our generation is Gen X. And we were born during the time of the unraveling, I guess. So there's 4 cycles they would talk about, which is the high, and then the awakening, which for this cycle that we're in now, the awakening would be the baby boomers that were born during the awakening. So they're post-World War II. Right after World War II, everything was great in this country. You know what I mean? That was back when you could buy, one person could work a job, buy a house, everything was great. But it was very much a time of conformity as well.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that, baby boomers, because there's a lot of people that came out of those family households that were very keen and interested in community living, communes, and living in nature. But like they decided to not fulfill that for some reason. Something happened where it didn't work out. And so I think finding what was the issue, why didn't it last, well, how can we sustain that so that I don't know what the root issue was there. I have listened to a couple documentaries on it, and I'm not really sure what happened there. Like they just got so excited about money, they didn't want to be poor anymore.
Well, I think at some point corporations really shifted into fifth gear.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you listen to more of these the authors of this book, The Fourth Turning, talk about the specific aspects of the different generations. It's very interesting when he's talking about the baby boomers, because he said exactly what you said. They're very much about community and, breaking down systems, I guess, but then they kind of became part of it.
Yeah, because the music too. The music scene was really, really hot then.
Yeah.
And the themes of the music was also about love or kind of anti, government stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So you had the music, then you had a huge counterculture, and you have those communities going on. Was it all created by some behind the scenes?
I mean,
in Central Intelligence.
Where's my tinfoil hat? And my foils, right? No, listen. Some of that stuff we can reference it, but some of that stuff's just true. at this point, like it's not even really speculation. Like the farm was a real place. Like all that stuff is documented at this point. So we very much know that, and even those kind of tactics from governments and stuff and controlled opposition is very real. The Nazis had gun tricks. You know what I mean? And they're there's a term for the instigator, like provocateur kind of thing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
They're there to disrupt things. But yeah, listen, a lot of that stuff, it was manipulated, and we know a lot of controlled opposition is a very real thing.
So could it be that, I don't want to say for every case and for everybody at the time period that we're talking about in the 60s, 70s, could it be that a lot of it was manufactured or assisted by some kind of incentives or people trying to, I don't know, manufacture this, society? And then you said something like potentially corporations set in and maybe allured them back to the money world. There was opportunities there. Could that also be another pull from somewhere else? I mean, sometimes I wonder if we really ever in the last 150 years had free will, in the sense that we created our own culture, you know what I mean? Like our own belief systems.
That's a very fair question, because I think that everything that even may have started, let me choose my words carefully here, because I want to reference religion without rubbing people the wrong way and the viewers drop to zero, because now we're talking about religion. A lot of shit was hijacked. You know what I mean? Like well-intentioned things that I think have just been hijacked and used to now just really manipulate people and turn them off against things that are arguably good.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? In a lot of ways, like people can say what they want about religion, but there's a lot of truth there. And honestly, my personal opinion, I don't even know how he got into religion here, but for me personally, my issues are not religion, it's humans and what they've done with it and in the name of it. And it's gotten very wrapped up. Like now people have attached those actions to the religion itself, and that is a concept. It can do nothing. You know what I mean? Only influence or whatever. And the rest is just on people.
Yeah. Well, religion was used obviously for hundreds and hundreds of years to legitimize murder and all kinds of things. Okay. But at the same time now, I think in the more modern time period, seems like there's a movement to vilify some religions, especially Christianity, to tear it apart as invalid. And to, historically, I think there are people that think they have the facts on that, and they have the facts. There's people that have historical scholars have the facts that, certain religions are valid. The certain prophets of those religions are extremely valid.
Sure.
They did belong. But you have so much hostility because these movements or religious movements of the time were and are still used to judge others by, to kill others by, to use immorally, unfortunately. But when you enter in a society that doesn't have morals or doesn't have God at the center, a good moral God at least, then you're in trouble. Then you're in trouble, because now the powers that be always have to use some kind of authority. If you don't have an authority, and the government's not your authority, but you don't have God, where are you going to be? I mean, you don't have you have yourself, and that's where a lot of people are trying to get to. I just have myself, me and myself, and I am sovereign and I'm powerful. At the same time, we always have to realize that I think people fall to their knees in crisis. Then you have yourself and I. No, you have God. God is always gonna come off the top of the tip of your tongue, and the worst
yes, I don't care who you are. No, that's the truth. That's probably the truth. Yeah, atheists might challenge that a little bit. That's not to bash atheists, but that's never mind. I'm not gonna get into a whole nother discussion. Let's not even open that can of worms right now.
But I was gonna go talking about religion, but also like music. We had music. It's always interesting too. I'm always like, how is it music is sucking so bad today? How is it that there's no producers, there's no good engineers, they can't write a great song like Africa by Toto? We don't even
I
have
know.
this good music anymore. We
No,
don't have Duran Duran. Like these
no,
music,
the
whether you
'90s
like
was
it
the
or
last
not,
good
this
decade.
music was epic. They had
Yeah.
great sound, great studios, great songwriters, and now you can't even hear a good song hardly anymore.
No, I know.
So something
And it's
happens with I think, this culture, and I'm always wondering, are we ever really creating this? And if not, why not? Why are we not doing this? And this is probably why we're led like a bunch of little puppy slaves, because we really just don't have the balls or the energy to create anything for
anything,
ourselves, and they know it.
they know it. That's why they fuel all this stuff to keep us, and when I do the show and I end up talking about it a lot, either in the opening or the close, and I'm always trying to encourage people to create, because we have to find like love, and that's where that stuff comes from. It's like creating something like whatever. I run my mouth. I created this show to give myself an outlet because I love to run my mouth, but just create something, like paint a picture. And then I just encourage people to share it, because that's how we ripple it out. Like we find it in ourselves, but if you just keep it to yourself, it's everything's better shared like that.
Yeah. Well, I think we really are doing a good job of inspiring one another, but it's not nearly as much. We have to, I think, really be careful of the data that's going on. We're very much listening to podcasts all the time. We're not even reading anymore. We're listening to YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. So much opinions of other people. That I'm actually noticing myself, or even with my son, how much information, what he's listening to, and being careful about our minds and our life path being everything that we listen to rather than ourselves.
Right.
Even people that make Facebook posts, and maybe you have you've had friends for the last 2 or 3 years. How much of their opinions become your opinions?
No, right.
Is your own fear your fear or their fears?
No, that's exactly right. And that's why know thyself. I mean, it like absolutely, I say it all the time. It doesn't matter what I'm talking about at all. It all comes back to that. Because you're right. Like if you don't know yourself, you're not going to be able to differentiate what's actually influencing your decisions, because people do it all the time. We change for people all the time, for acceptance, for love, for whatever.
One of I don't know how to pronounce his name. That guy, works for the WEF. He's from Jewish. Yoselov.
You're talking Harari.
Yeah, he wrote a book, the 21 Lessons of something.
Yeah, I haven't checked him out.
And one of his lines was that I always remember was that he really felt that AI in the digital future, one of the greatest things about it is its ability to be able to help us make better decisions, or to help us make decisions. Sure. Right. So, if we have biometrics in our bodies, it might be able to help with us prevent disease. If we have this in our body, it might help select a song for us to play in our mind that helps with our emotions. Like if we're sad, it's going to know what song to help us cope with that sadness. So making better decisions for us. But then, is your growth stunted? Yes. Is your privacy sabotaged? Yes.
Sure.
I mean, it's a really scary proposition. Honestly. And we have to maintain making decisions by ourselves, autonomy. Like that is what makes us beautiful, creative, and powerful. That has always been part of humanity, and we can't lose that.
No, sure. And I tell you, it's interesting that you mentioned Harari because I have such an up and down kind of. I'm still trying to figure the guy out because here in a couple episodes, well, I did one of the early episodes of this season was about AI and Judaism, and this book Homo Deus, which he also wrote. I know the book that you referenced. I have not read it, but Homo Deus I found to be an extremely interesting book. I mean, it's a very interesting. It takes us all through humanism, humanists, and like all this. It's super interesting. The last chapter of the book is the data religion, and it gets it's super interesting, but it gets kind of scary too. And so with Harari, I'm trying to figure out what this guy is he philosophizing and just throwing out ideas, or is this kind of actually what he believes? So, because I've watched a couple other things, and I was watching a Greg Braden thing just yesterday, and he opened up this talk and he referenced Harari because he was referencing an interview that he did talking about using AI to rewrite all the religious text. I personally think it's a horrible idea.
Yeah, just a little.
And I don't think it should happen that way. Do I think those religious texts should be left as is, as data for AI to chew on as it exists? Yes. But he tied it all back to the Torah code, which is a whole nother I don't know if you have any. That shit is crazy.
No, I have not.
Oh, it's super crazy. Well, it's some Bible. I'm just now kind of getting into it, but it's contained in that intersection, I guess, in the Old Testament, early books. So it's that overlap between Jewish religious text and like the Bible and the Old Testament. But it's supposed to basically be this code that has the answers to just everything that ever is, was, or will be. And scientists have just been chewing up on this document forever, and they've proven a lot of stuff. And what's one of the things that was actually in that document is that it would not be revealed in full. I'm paraphrasing, but until the age of computers. That was basically going to take computers to basically decipher this, because it all got down into something about number sequencing and letter sequencing and how many space, I don't know, and it's all written in Hebrew. You know what I mean? So you can't. But I'm watching this Greg Braden thing, but he referenced it with that. But Harari, he's up and down, because I was watching the talk with him again, last night, where he was talking about implants and stuff like that, and talking about how dangerous it was.
Yeah.
And so that's why, I'm listening to this guy, I'm like, what side of the fence are you on exactly?
Yeah, well, if you read that book, 21, whatever the heck, I just know it's 21.
Lessons for Humanity or something.
Yeah, I read half of it, and I underlined a shit ton. And the reason I underlined so much in that book is because he contradicts himself over and over.
Does he? Okay, so I could see that happening.
Who is very, seems to be very supportive of humanity and really kind of likes where it's gone. On the other hand, he really degrades humanity and really despises humanity. It's almost like he's been programmed mentally what to say or what to think in his life. And
maybe, because I get that same feeling
between his own morals and own thoughts, along with what the agenda may be, or what his peers, his network may be, and he's fusing all of this stuff together. So it comes across as though he's multiple different people.
Sure, which means you probably shouldn't trust him.
Which is why you probably are feeling
or self-investigating.
I'm not sure I understand this character.
Yeah, because I've heard something. He talks about unstoppable humans. I'm like, this guy likes humans. You know what I mean? But then, when he gets into the data and stuff, it's a little I don't know about all that.
He's constantly saying in that book how much he thinks that we're not very smart. You know, we're not,
Yeah,
we
that's
didn't come,
crazy. Yeah,
that
no,
we need
I've
help.
caught some. No, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and the
Yeah.
dataism thing, he starts talking about like and basically, well, everything. Well, when he's talking about the dataism isn't even his creation or thing. It's like he's basically telling you about life sciences and computer sciences have been fucking each other. Basically, sorry for the harshness, for the last since computers started, really, and they realized that the mathematical laws that apply to biological algorithms exactly match computer algorithms. The same laws apply across the board. And so he gets real hyped up in this chapter. And it's interesting because it talks about dataism creating basically the holy grail of science, is the way he's referring to it, and creates a scientific language that just crosses all borders.
This is why I think we need to be really careful too when we're listening to people and reading books about authors, especially him or anybody who's presenting the Great Reset, new agendas, because they're going to say, this is what he does. He says, they. Who's they? Well, we know who they are, but he says they, and he does this in the book that I read too. They think this, or this statistic comes from, and they believe this, they believe that, which unfortunately creates our reality. It says, this guy says this, and this is what's going to happen here if we do this right, and this A and B and C happens, and then we're like, is this what is going to happen? And then we're all online on social media. This is what's going to happen. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. And now we're all manifesting their bullshit.
No, that's exactly right.
And it's like,
that's why I try and tell people too, quick, step outside of that noise a little bit, because you unintentionally become a tentacle for it. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Harari, because I mentioned him to a couple of people, and it's important to listen to multiple people. And different viewpoints. And I'm glad to know that I'm not the only one. I picked up that book
by accident. I kind of knew who he was slightly, but
I had
knew he
no
wasn't
idea.
Such a savory character, but I didn't. The title was like, oh, this looks interesting. And when I started reading the chapters, I was like, this is interesting, but not for the right reasons. It should be interesting. It's for the reasons where this is your enemy. And this is what they want to do. And I say enemy because they go against our free will. You know, they want to set up everything for us. They're not letting us have one say in this, or they're at least trying to do that.
Yeah, I had come across him by accident too, that Homo Deus book. And I got the audio book, and I had listened to that book 3 times through, and had, over the course of 8 months before I knew he had any tie to the World Economic Forum. I had no clue who he was or anything until it crossed my newsfeed one day, and I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
I might want it. But I'm glad to know that, I'm not the only person confused by him, because even again, I'm listening to people like Greg Braden talking about him too, saying the same kind of stuff, like, still not really confused by this guy, man. Like, I'm not sure how to take him. And so, like, take maybe
they
some of the important
convince us, you know. So in order to convince people, the way you start things off is to talk about how they're part of your mission with you and the benefits of what we're doing together, and to be on your side. That's how you gotta. That's how they convince us and persuade us. And then they, after a while, they say, but we have to really think about this other thing, and we have to kind of do it this way. But I'm still on your side, and I'm working for you. I'm thinking for you. I'm thinking about humanity. Like, it's a lot of manipulation. And that is why at the end of the books, or at the end of a discussion with any of these people, you realize, like, that person is like 4 different people. 4 different missions, 4 different statements, 4 different philosophies.
Yeah, and it gets confusing. No, agreed. So I'm kind of he's one of those. Some of it makes sense. Yeah, a lot of it. I'm not even gonna say a lot of it, but it makes sense. And then again, like you said, then you're just like, wait a minute. Well, you're talking about no soul now. Like, you just lost me a little bit there, guy. But Yeah,
Well,
crazy
it's
shit.
like in a relationship, it's like the same thing a little bit, especially if it's a toxic one. I'm going to make your day really good right now. And then the next day, I'm going to find something to be mad at you about. And it's like, so it's like these speakers that are trying to
The
convince us
dance.
of things are also, I'm going to present to you something that is really great. And you're going to agree with me because I agree with you.
Mhm.
And then I'm going to disagree, and we're going to present something that really doesn't go along with your ideals. And then I'm going
Right.
to go back and switch and back and forth. And it's kind of
Sure.
like that person, at the end of the day, you kind of say, that kind of person's kind of cool. I agree with them, but I don't agree with that. And you
Right.
develop a tolerance. Now,
Right.
this is the big thing. You
No,
develop
good
a
point.
tolerance for their immoral and unethical ideals.
Right.
I made a
That's a very
video on
good point.
TikTok about tolerance and how they're
That's
trying
a
to get
very
us
good
to
point.
tolerate everything, and it got removed right away. So
Wow.
I
That's
know
a
that
very good
tolerance is
point.
a big one.
No, yeah, and right along the lines of normalizing stuff.
Hmm.
No,
That's
that's a
how they do
very,
it.
very good point. I had not considered that because they definitely do that.
It's a
And then some of these,
psychological warfare, really. It really is.
and it's funny because they do it. Well, I mean, we do it with social media, but even things like not the average person isn't going to stumble upon Yuval Harari's books and like read them and contemplate them. Like, so they're doing it with intelligent people, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And they have found a way to even intelligent people just kind of
Yeah.
get us
Oh, yeah, they gotta kind of like
sneaky
feel like
bastards.
they're on our side, you
Right.
know. But then present really, really crazy ideas that don't really feel quite right. And, to present them, and he's not really even that convincing of a character. He doesn't give me the
No.
warm and cozies. He doesn't give me
No,
the
and like,
hero. Schwab doesn't give, Schwab is like the
no.
ultimate villain looking man. Like,
No,
they couldn't have
totally he
chosen a
is.
worse
Where
face.
the hell is Bond?
you know?
Well, and see, that's the thing about Harari. See, and like when I first listened to it, like I said, I had the audiobook, and so it was not narrated by him as narrated. I didn't know what the guy looked like. I had no clue, not a clue. And then I finally see him. You're like, this dude's kind of creepy looking, man. You know what I mean? This
Well,
bald, skinny.
in his book that
Like I
I
want to
read,
talk to.
he was saying like he said, if I had the AI in my body at the time that I decided I knew I was going to be gay, I would have known sooner that I would be gay, and I wouldn't have had to gone through all those trials,
See,
of finding. And I'm like, that is exactly what people need. They need to go through these trials. That's what
yeah,
makes
yeah.
people
See,
superhuman, is these struggles and these trials,
right.
not some digital device telling them,
No,
this is
correct.
the song for you, this is the girl for you,
Yeah,
this
no,
is
no,
the,
no, no, no.
who wants
Yeah,
that
no,
anyway? But
I
these guys
completely
do.
agree. Yeah, and that's
you
crazy.
know
Yeah, I'm not about some transhumanism. I like my technology, mind you, but and I think there's a lot of good potentials, but implanting stuff and try. No, listen. Once we kind of learn the power of our minds and our hearts, we tap into all this stuff. They're trying to basically create a technological god, yeah, more or less, and connect us all to it. If you've never seen the Matrix, but
yeah.
listen, but on the note of the Matrix, the one thing everybody talks about the Matrix, but they never mention about the Matrix is how shitty it was outside of the Matrix.
Yeah.
No, you know what I mean? Like I put myself in that place, and I'm like, I mean, if you had to make that honest decision, which life would you want to live? The majority of people, I can't honestly say I wouldn't choose it too. Now plug me the fuck back in. I don't.
Well,
This
I
is
think that
dinner and wasteland
environment
here.
is like everything might come at ease. You might have quick choices. You might not have to think about choices. It might be all, but then it's kind of like going to the song by the Talking Heads called Heaven. Heaven is a place where nothing ever happens. This
Mm-hmm.
idea that I guess in the song is that you're in a place where friction and conflict doesn't happen, and it is in the midst of conflict and not understanding and not being able to see through the fog,
Right.
not having the answers, feeling hurt, feeling stressed, that you find beauty eventually later on down the road, of course, but you actually find the reasons worth living. It's not worth living to have everything at your fingertips.
No, correct. And we
The
are definitely
struggle
instant
is the beauty, the
gratification
beauty is
society.
the struggle, and that's why we're here, and that's why we get so that's why our personalities are so blooming a lot of times, or some of the wisest people are some of the had the hardest lives. You know, they have so much to share and so much they've gone through. That's what makes humans beautiful. And so we go down a path of AI. I'm going to have AI write my report for me. I'm going to have AI write my books for me. We're going to be reading books that are written by AI. What the fuck is the point? Really? Come on. Like, that's not even worth it to me.
I agree with you. And like this, part of me, like when I think about technology and things like automation and stuff like that, and what I want to say, I don't want to say excites me about it because that's kind of the wrong connotation, but the things that can free up people's time to do all those things themselves, if that makes sense, you know? In my idea of a utopian world, we're not all working 9-to-5 jobs. Of course, in a utopian world, I can't imagine a corporate structure like we have anyway that would require that, but no, like we're painting our pictures, we're singing our songs, we're working our gardens, we're doing whatever the hell we want to do because we got time for it instead of just constant grind to pay bills and shit. You know?
Well, technology isn't bad. I mean, I probably sound horrible, but technology isn't bad. The point is there's a line. The point is like what
we've reached
says, don't let the technology get on you or in you, meaning don't let it surveil you. You know, monitor everything that you do, make choices for you, take the human out of you. It's great to have a washer and dryer. It's great to have a laptop. It's great.
I love that we're doing this right now.
Yeah, exactly. This is amazing.
Yeah.
But it comes a point where if you have biometrics in your system and you have, you know, your decisions are made or your social conditioning credit score is tracked, now you really don't. Now you have very bad technology, and that's really what I think they want the most. It's not like they really want to help us make better decisions. They really care about us. They really just want to surveil us as much as possible. And yes, it's about control and a psychological weird control of us, but it's also like there's money involved too.
Sure, you know? Money is the root of all of it.
Yeah, so
for the select few people anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we're right now with social media constantly being conditioned, you know, like with me making TikTok videos, I've only made a handful and some of the topics get taken down right away. That's conditioning me, like, oh, I got to be careful with that topic. Or on Facebook, I can't write the word murder because even if it has nothing to do with anything bad, because this platform isn't going to like it. And it makes me feel bad about what I say, how I think. And so they're already conditioning
self-censorship.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Walking on eggshells, which is like abuse.
Yeah, we live in a narcissistic relationship with our government. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, or with the high cost of living.
And yeah, exactly right. Which is a great reason to entertain intentional communities. So on that note, listen, this was great. We should do this again. For sure. Because we're at our hour, so I'm going to wrap it up for tonight. And so the next 2 weeks, guys, is going to be a little deeper into the fourth turning. I've been researching. I'm waiting for the book to be delivered, so I don't have a hard copy of it. But I've got a good 10, 20 hours of YouTube videos with the authors under my belt at the moment. And it's super interesting enough that I think we can probably draw out 2 episodes. But if there's anything coming up, Rebecca, that you want to come in on, you're welcome to be a guest anytime. I know that the next 2 episodes are going to be before turning, but then I'm going to do one on AI. So if you would like to come back on for that AI conversation, that would be great as well. We can adjust the day of the week if we need to, because I have to be honest, I'm thinking about changing the day of the week that this usually happens on, because I've been doing it on Saturdays. But I'm usually tired as hell.
Yeah.
To be honest.
And a
And so
lot
I'm
of
thinking,
people Saturdays, I noticed they just are not on social media quite as much.
no, and
They're
like,
busy.
I'm surprised because we've had a good number of views tonight. And I did a little live earlier at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon that got some surprisingly good traction. I was a little, I'm trying to find out, not that I'm trying to figure out the algorithms because they'll switch that shit up on you. But like a good day for me to watch. I'm thinking of ditching the weekend just altogether, dropping it like a Monday or Tuesday. Seems to work pretty good, and I'm off those 2 days, so I'm not going to be all tired.
Right. Yeah. I think Tuesday's a good day, really. I think people are relaxing from work and on their social media and
Yeah,
are able to see
right. Yeah, so we'll so for everybody watching, consider from this point forward Tuesdays, Tuesday nights. Ignore any previous plugging of the show and future episodes that they're all going to be on Tuesdays now. And I'm going to go in and change my own calendar because I think you're right. I think this would probably be a much better night moving forward. So on that note, Rebecca, thank you.
Thank you
For being on tonight. Very much. It was great meeting you finally. Again, and so a lot of people, I want to get more people on the show because, you know, we all have thousands of friends on here, but honestly, there's like a group of about, you know, like 30 people, like maybe, and we're all friends with each other.
Yeah, and you know, even there's we all friends with like maybe 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 friends. I only have like less than 1,000 now, which I like actually. But there's always
I started blowing mine up. Well, I switched it over to professional mode because now I'm trying to do a thing.
But there's always like 40 people on in your list and on my list that are really impeccable and very smart, really well researched, have such great opinions. You know, like you know, I was talking about Jake Jackson. He's really great with natural law and really trying to start something huge. These are the people that we are friends with that we should just, you know, talk with live. People who know who are building homes right now and building intentional communities and what they have to say. I know somebody already too that's doing that, and all the way to the spiritual realm, people who have a really keen understanding of what's going on, spiritual warfare. And then, of course, with what I'm getting into is becoming self-government, you know, having that self-governance, having that self-respect and restoring integrity back into our lives. And so I think that we need to continue this talk and dialogue this way, because sometimes sharing memes and just throwing out conversation, it's really fun and I've learned so much. But to see each other's faces and to really see that it gives people other hope, like, hey, there are real people out there that really want to do the same things that I want to do. I'm not so alone, and we're not alone. The social media, it's like it makes us feel like community, but it also feels so isolating too.
Absolutely. And you know, when I started this show, it was the intention of having guests on there because we're all very smart people. Like, we don't need the pundits to tell us what to think. And everybody else is controlled opposition or is considered to be, whether they actually are or not, is almost irrelevant. But people like you and me and just these normal people like the rest of us on Facebook are not. You know what I mean? And so you're going to get some real conversation and some genuine, legit perspectives that are not controlled by, I'm not getting a paycheck for doing this show.
I think people that have solutions and have, even if you don't have solutions, but at least you have the understanding that we aren't going to put up with this shit anymore, and we don't have to. And like you just kind of said there, that we are pretty intelligent. In fact, when we listen to every so-called representative, they're not very smart. They're not very good with their linguist. They're not very good with their mission statement. we're much
You would
better,
think
and
they
we
would be
have to
better.
believe that. We have to believe in ourselves. We didn't
Yes.
sign any contract that we need to, do a lot of the things that we're doing. And
Right.
we have to rewire our belief systems and deprogram. And this is going to take a long time.
Some time. No, you're right.
Unfortunately.
And that's why, no,
we
I
got to
know.
start
And that's
somewhere.
why I was like, no, that's right. And that's what I kind of figured. I was like, well, if I've got to pick up a torch for something, that's what it's going to be, is just those mindsets and stuff. Because again, I honestly, until we can really start changing those in ourselves and our kids,
Mm-hmm.
because part of me feels like for older generations, no disrespect, almost feels like a lost cause. You know what I mean? Not for everybody, I suppose. I mean, but at a certain point, I think they get so locked in their mindsets that either they can't change or there's not really even an interest. It's like, I'm 80 years old, why do I give a shit about changing my life almost over again? But for our generation,
well, they're really stuck in old world paradigm, because you know what, they lived in the 60s, 70s, and 80s with a very comfortable
this entire
life. I mean, they had good lives, good jobs. The
they
cost of living
started at the
wasn't nearly
high.
as tough. The cost of college wasn't nearly as tough. They
Yeah,
got
could you imagine? See, I can't even imagine. Like, I'm 40, I'll be 47 in about a month, but like being born at the beginning of this cycle that we're in, to where you've seen the highs where everything was great. You went through the 60s of the awakening. You went through the unraveling, which this book suggests culminated that a period of unraveling in 08 with the economic collapse, which sent us then into the crisis turn that we're in now. That culminates in 2030, oddly enough. So yeah, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But interesting stuff for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So guys, we appreciate you watching the show. Be sure to tune in. We'll listen if we don't wrap it up, Rebecca. We'll just start rolling. Because you're a good conversationalist and you talk as well as I do too. It was very nice having you on the show. I've spent the last 6 episodes running my own mouth.
Yeah.
So it was nice to have somebody else to bounce things off of.
Yeah.
And we will definitely do this again.
Cool. Yeah.
No, I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And any topics, I know you've mentioned some stuff that you're into yourself. I'll make it a topic and just bring you on, and I'll just kind of let you do your thing.
Yeah, I know a little bit.
I'll give you the full screen. I'll put myself in the little bubble up here. Yeah. Well,
a little bit about a lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff. Yeah, that's me too.
Even geoengineering and everything, right? I always complain about that shit for a long time.
Yeah, me too.
But today, lately, I've been noticing that we're just really super paralyzed. And we're stuck. We want to go. We envision a future. We envision ourselves or our children in a certain way, and we have no idea how to get there. And I hope that I can be part of that change.
Yes, me too. And me too. And I think that's what we're all trying to do here. So, guys, thanks for watching the show tonight. We enjoyed it. Tune in next Tuesday. It'll be next Tuesday. We'll start talking about the fourth turning by Howe and Strauss, I think, are the names of the authors, if I remember correctly. And I'm hoping by then I should have a hard copy of that book in front of me too, to go through. That should be exciting. So, love you guys. Rebecca, it was amazing. Oh my goodness, I just jerked my earbuds right out. Anyway, yeah. See you guys next Tuesday. Rebecca, it was great seeing you.
Good
love
seeing
you guys.
You, Casey. Have a great night.
Good night.